let me ask you, if I may, the major concerns that I have is the strain on the military, our capacity in this endeavor, which I think trumps whatever we've got to do. We don't have the troops. I'd like to get your comments on the status of the military as you see it now, particularly with the fact we have over one-half of our combat capacity engaged in Iraq. Military men and women, many are on their third and fourth tours of duty. We can't continue to move in the direction that we have. And then the hypocrisy of pretending we're having a drawdown of troops, when in fact we're just simply removing the surge numbers and we're back where we are now in terms of the tactics of this administration. But especially the cost of the wear and tear on our military, the lack of reserves necessary, and quite honestly the perilous position we're placed in because of that. When you look at Iran and China and Russia and other areas, in particular all those in the Middle East, which we will not be ready to respond to even if we had to.
Congressman Scott, everybody is aware of the degraded Army. The only issue is how degraded is it, and how long will it take to recover, and how much will it cost. I remember exactly the same discussion after Vietnam, with the fundamental difference that we still had a draft for much of that period. I am not the right person to ask the detailed questions. It's not my field. It is of the highest importance, and but I would defer to the experts in readiness. That it is a central problem is clear, and it's one of the main reasons for Chairman Lantos's prior question, because the JCS has the global responsibility that he referred to, and General Petraeus has the local responsibility to succeed in Iraq, and what he needs to succeed may be working against the global readiness issue, plus the subplot of Afghanistan. But I can't give you details.
A more clear understanding of what you were saying about departmentalizing Iraq into a federation. Would you give us a clearer understanding of exactly what you are talking about, and how would that differ from what Senator Biden is offering?
Congressman Scott, well, if you want to ask me what my differences are with what Leskell proposed and others have, it gets very nuanced, but let me put it in the simplest terms. In broadly speaking, oversimplified terms, there are two kinds of states. They're federal states and unitary states. India and the United States are federal states, and France and Japan are essentially unitary states. Everything's run from Paris or Tokyo. In the U.S., and this is the whole reason we were structured this way after the why we didn't have a single central government, why the states had certain powers. The whole debate was over this issue. Whether it works well or not, I leave to your judgment. In Bosnia, there is no way that war would have ever ended if you had not had two regions. At the time, people said, you're partitioning Bosnia. But we didn't participate Bosnia. We held it together by giving each of the regions some powers and some to the center. You can argue that we didn't get the balance right. You can argue that we didn't get the balance right in the U.S. The whole states' rights movement, the whole battle over civil rights was over whether states could make decisions of the federal government. So we have a long history on this ourselves, and we fought a war over this issue. But back to Iraq. The administration has continually said they want a strong and effective national government. They use phrases like government of national unity. What I am submitting to you today, Mr. Scott, is not the details of the solution, because I don't know them. You don't know them. Only Iraqis can work it out for themselves. What I'm submitting is the idea that trying to strengthen the Maliki government won't ever happen. And I'm taking issue with my friend Senator Graham, who said to you, I believe you were already here at the end of his very eloquent presentation, I believe I heard him say that in the six months we're going to see Sunnis, Kurds, and Shiites come together. I wish it were true. I don't believe it.
He said 90 days.
90 days. I am submitting to you as my core underlying point, and it's useful to testify after Lindsey Graham, because we share a lot of the same judgments of what's happening on the ground, and then we come to completely different predictions. I am saying that the Sunni awakening in the West is working again, is going to create a Sunnistan in the West, like the Kurdistan of the North and the Shiistan, which is in the process of being created with Iraq, with Iran as a dominant. Now, what do you do about that? Option A, try to create a strong central government along the lines Lindsey Graham thinks will happen. I'm saying I don't think it'll happen. Option B, divide it into 3 different countries. Let it break up the way Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia and Ethiopia, Eritrea broke up into separate nations. Peter Galbraith's proposed that in his book, The End of Iraq. Option C, what Les Gell proposed, the Bosnia solution. 1 country, the same international border, 1 seat in the UN, 1 foreign minister. I was going to say 1 currency, but we've already passed that point. The Kurds have their own currency, their own flag. But 1 country, 1 international character, and a lot of autonomy and a loose central government. That way you don't have you don't have as much argument. Now, it ain't that easy, and the biggest problem with it is oil revenue, because the Sunnis don't have any oil-producing areas. There is oil in the ground. Senator Graham said the Sunnis have no oil. That's not true. The Sunnis have oil, but it's never been explored and found, and nobody is going to do the drilling there under the current security circumstances. Eventually, my guess is the Chinese will come in because they're willing to take the risks. But those are the 3 options. Let's call them unitary state, 1, 3 countries, 2, and federalism, 3. And Lindsey Graham is predicting 1. Galbraith is proposing number 2, 3 countries, partition, which a word I won't use. And I'm advocating the federal solution, which is where it's going anyway, and which our support of the Sunnis in the West and the Kurds in the North is going anyway. So what I was saying was our policy on the ground is at odds with our articulated goal, and this was simply crystal clear in your hearings. Really listen to the hearings. Get past the theater. And that's what was going on in this room. They were presenting events on the ground, and which were positive from their point of view, and then going right on to say, but we want a strong central government. I don't think it's going to happen. And I'm not saying this to be a negativist, or I don't want us to lose in Iraq. I want us to salvage what we can from this mess. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, the federal approach gives us one last chance. But we ought to work towards it before the troops are gone and we've lost all our leverage.